everyone, I'm Steve Place, and welcome to another edition of Nonprofit Spotlight. As you know, a Nonprofit Spotlight is a production of the Volunteer Advisory Committee here at Community Television. And every episode, we highlight an organization in Santa Cruz County doing wonderful work on any number of issues. And we're really fortunate to be highlighting this episode the Santa Cruz Welcoming Network. And we're very happy to have with us two volunteers, Ellen Murtha and Mary Reynolds. Ellen and Mary, welcome. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Before we start and get into really discussing the great work that's being done by the network and the importance of this, particularly in today's political atmosphere with an incoming administration that may not be as friendly to, particularly to immigrants and refugees, let's find out a little bit about yourself. Mary, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with the Welcoming Network.
Well, I was a nurse at Watsonville Hospital for 20 years, and when I retired, I thought, well, I want to do some kind of volunteer work, and I went to this big meeting at the Civic Auditorium where there were all kinds of people, and so I decided to get involved because my patients had been immigrants all my whole career. I decided to work with immigrants, and so I joined Sanctuary Santa Cruz. And as Sanctuary Santa Cruz was kind of sundowning, a bunch of people started gathering at the Catholic Church and meeting. At least I think it was, I don't know if it was once a month or once a week, but to try to figure out how we could help immigrants. And so we met for quite a long time, almost a year, I'd say, 9 months, something like that. And then suddenly it just all started falling together. And we decided to work mostly with asylum seekers and sometimes occasionally with other immigrants. But asylum seekers had a clearer path to becoming legal, so that was part of our focus.
Of course.
To do that. And so it's been an amazing growth of this organization. It's just almost like magic. It just keeps getting better and better. And we keep getting more and more volunteers. And of course, now with the recent election, we're really serious about doing whatever we can to protect the immigrants we're already serving and the ones who may come to us in the future.
Well, that's terrific, and a shout out to Sanctuary Santa Cruz. I was briefly involved with them back in the day, and they did terrific work, so that's wonderful. And Ellen Murtha, welcome, also a volunteer with the Santa Cruz Welcoming Network. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with the network.
So my entire career was helping children and families, and a variety of roles doing that. During the first Trump administration, I was aghast that he ordered the stopping families at our southern border and detaining the parents and placing the children essentially into fenced like cages and with like a space blanket. There's something like 5,000 children that were assimilated into our country into foster care and other arrangements. Some of those children, all this time later, were never reunited with their parents. And I just felt like I could not allow that kind of destructive event, especially for the children, with what I knew about child development. I couldn't allow it to be, I couldn't quietly go along with that, not in my name. And so I was delighted to find Santa Cruz Welcoming Network, who were wanting to assist people who did make it to Santa Cruz. One of our first families was a mother who was reunited with her two sons here in Santa Cruz. And so it was very fulfilling. Mary and I both worked with that family. And it's really heart work. It's really amazing. It's individualized. It's really person to person rather than advocating on a national level or marching in the streets, winning legal cases. Those are all important, but it's really person-to-person work.
That's wonderful. The human element, I think, too often is forgotten when we're analyzing, policies regionally and nationally, and wondering whether or not those things are fair or just. But it's really the human factor, I think, that's most important. Let me, as we get into the discussion of the network, read your mission statement, which is wonderful. It said, "Our mission is to provide comfort and support for people who seek asylum and refuge. Our volunteers connect personally and accompany them as they navigate challenges such as immigration court, shelter, healthcare, and work. We find resources that support their goals and healing from trauma. We are committed to the truth that every human being is worthy of a safe place to live and thrive." Wonderful, wonderful sentiment. I noticed that you are reaching out in some of the website, and people can go to the website, Santa Cruz Welcoming Network.com, not only to donate, which it's .com, is it?
Yes.
Good. Not only donate, which we urge you to do, but also to volunteer, which we'll talk about later. I noticed that you were reaching out to faith-based communities to be part of this work. How is that going, and what do you hope is going to be developing from that? And Mary, maybe you can answer that.
Well, that's going fantastically. The Catholic Church helped us because they already were doing some of this work, and we met in their facilities when we were starting up. But then we soon became involved with lots of different faiths in Santa Cruz, who all seemed to want to help in some ways. Some provided housing, some knew the resources where we could get food for people and health care and all of these things. So they were very helpful to us and still are.
And Ellen, do you have anything to add?
Well, I do. I got my degree at UCSC in religious studies long time ago. So this is
Not that long ago, I don't think. But anyway, we'll let that pass.
So this is really, what means the most to me. And I want to just mention a couple of other faith organizations.
Please.
Temple Bethel has been very supportive of us, allowing us to speak to their congregation. A number of people have since then volunteered with us. We've also been welcomed by Trinity Presbyterian, the Lutherans. And so there's a real sense, I believe, for most religions to have a sense of sort of welcoming the stranger, caring for each other, and so it's really a great way for us to, as an all-volunteer organization with a very small administrative budget, to get the word out, especially to recruit host homes. Here in Santa Cruz County, one of the hardest things for our new neighbors is to be able to afford rent. And so a number of people, as Mary said, have welcomed families and individuals into their own homes. And that's a beautiful thing to do for a couple of months while they're getting their bearing, while they're getting their feet on the ground, and particularly while they're waiting for their work permit to get processed. Mm-hmm. So that's one of those things that we found the faith communities are really responsive to. And of course, the more volunteers we have, the more families and individuals we can serve. So because it's all volunteer, it depends on people being willing to say, yeah, I can help a little bit.
Yeah. And tell people that are interested in the community, and Santa Cruz is just a terrific place for people giving their time and energy to different causes. Tell them how they can get involved, just as community members, with the Welcoming Network. Mary, maybe you can tell a little bit, and maybe Ellen can add something.
Well, we always welcome volunteers, and basically when we take on a family or an individual, we have a team leader. And then we have, and usually that's someone has a little more experience, or someone with more experience is guiding someone who's new. And then there are other people that just are part of the team, and they take on whatever, oh, well, I could go get the food from the Resurrection Church on one Wednesday a month and
Mhm.
take it to them, something like that. Or, oh, I could take them to the doctor, or that kind of thing. So what do you think, Ellen? What would you like to
So
add?
I just want to make sure people know all they have to do is email us
Yeah.
and we will get back to them, because even though we're volunteers, we don't have an office, we don't have a phone number, we are responsive to people that want to volunteer and people that are interested in helping. So it's Santa Cruz Welcome at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Santa Cruz Welcome. Pretty easy to remember that. And Abby, who is our volunteer that does contact people who are interested, will explain more on the phone about what's involved. People can do sort of as little or as much as they want. Mary's an example of someone who's sort of above and beyond, really does everything. But there are other people who just say, I can help drive people. That's all I can do. I can take them up to San Francisco so that when they're going to immigration court, they can be there, which is a fantastic service. If that's all you want to do, great. Join a team, do that. And then, of course, really it's impossible not to become emotionally connected with people, because you really are working with them over the course of 6 months, a year, 2 years, while their immigration case is wending its way through the courts.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of opportunity to help them find resources that they want, the things that they need in their lives, all the time, making sure that they, can get connected. Their kids can go to school. There's no reason to wait for that. They can get medical attention, other things that are immediate needs. But again, I just want to say the two biggest issues are housing and legal services.
Yeah.
And another one is psychological services, because almost everyone that comes to us has some trauma getting here, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Well, I would urge everyone who is, hopefully this program will pique people's interest and make them aware of the great work that's going on, and go to the Santa Cruz Welcoming Network.com website. I took a look at it myself. Terrific website, actually. Very nice pictures and thing of people that are being helped, and people who are coming into our community and finding it welcoming, which Santa Cruz, as everybody knows, is a very welcoming space, but particularly now for immigrants, it's so important to extend that welcome to them.
Yeah.
And you were saying, it's interesting, I do a lot of work with houseless individuals in Santa Cruz. One of the things that I've struggled with is finding connection to legal services for them. Are you able to navigate them toward attorneys who are willing to appear with them, or at least advise them about the process of immigration court, which can be completely befuddling to people, particularly immigrants?
Right. One of the things that just happened this year is we are part of a collaborative that includes local government, as well as immigration attorneys and some of the nonprofit organizations like the Community Action Board. And so we helped put on the first free legal clinic in October. And that is, again, exactly what you're talking about, giving people a chance to understand the process that they're going to go to. One of the things that we have been fundraising for is legal services. I don't know how many people can get through their adult life without needing legal services of one kind or another. And full disclosure, of course, my husband was an attorney, so I'm pretty well versed in, if in doubt, get an attorney. So, but we had to raise money because, professional attorneys are expensive, and you have to have a professional that's familiar with immigration law, which is extremely convoluted and of course, changing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We actually raised money so that every single person that needed to have a consultation could.
Oh, wonderful! Wow.
Yeah, so that's not saying we're paying for the whole, year, 2 years that they're going to need to be represented, but at least to get them started with the paperwork. They have to apply for asylum within the first 12 months of arriving here, It's a critical milestone. And so we want to make sure everybody does that so that they aren't deported back to the country that they fled, usually due to violence or oppression. So that legal services is essential. And that's one of the main reasons we've raised funds. And I just want to put a plug in right now for Santa Cruz Gives. Santa Cruz Gives is just through this year, 12/31/24. But it is, you can Google Santa Cruz Gives and you can find us, Santa Cruz Welcoming Network, on there. And we're so glad to be part of this wonderful, incredible Santa Cruz County array of services. And so, I recommend people take a look at Santa Cruz Gives. And of course, when the campaign ends, they can find us on, Santa Cruz Welcoming Network.com.
Absolutely. And of course, we mentioned that this program, of course, is evergreen and that it'll play throughout the year, but it will play in rotation soon enough, I think, for people to make an opportunity for themselves to contribute through Santa Cruz Gives, another wonderful program and campaign. And I think it is important to emphasize that, particularly with underserved communities, even though they may not get legal representation through the entire process, it's important for them to feel a connection with that service and not be estranged from it. And so that is a wonderful opportunity that you're providing for them.
Yes, before the election, we were particularly making this our focus because, we don't know what's going to happen, and we really want our people to at least be started on their paperwork, so that they can show something that they're trying to be legal or they are legal.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an important thing for us. And we a lot of what we do is take care of basic necessities: food, clothing, shelter, medical care. So legal is right up there with those because it's essential for them to be safe.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I wanted to add on to what Mary's saying is particularly why it's so essential for refugees and asylum seekers is because our government allowed them to come into the country. Our government knows they're here. In fact, our government knows exactly where they are. And so that means the government could find them and deport them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not living in the shadows, they're not here illegally. The government said you can come in, but for example, for our refugees, most of them are on a temporary status. For example, I worked for a year with a family from Ukraine, and they're really worried now what's going to happen. Their temporary status could be revoked in the next administration. I can't even say how terrible that is for them. And of course, we have people from Afghanistan as well. We spent 20 years there, and people there helped us significantly while we were there. And then, of course, as we left, we only allowed some of them to come in with us, and they're very concerned. If they were deported, that would basically be a death sentence. And so, the legal services is really essential. And I have to just say one more thing: Catholic Charities provide some free legal services, but of course, they cannot meet the demand. They're working with all kinds of people: asylum seekers, refugees, immigrants, etc. And they're doing the best they can. And we want to make sure people as Mary said, get started, especially if they're an asylum seeker, because the clock is ticking for them, and they have to apply. And if they need to find a representative, and we can help them with that.
Yeah, and I know as volunteers, you certainly have a very personal relationship with immigrants or refugees. Is it your feeling that they are concerned, they are aware that there may be a sea change in national policy that might affect them? Or are they more have more of a feeling of urgency with new policies that perhaps may come in?
It's a good question.
I think. Go ahead, Mary.
Well, it's hard to know. I mean, it's hard. Some don't speak English, so
Yeah.
they're not getting their news on our channels, but they may be paying attention to world news, and for instance, Hispanic channels and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to know. I mean, after all the trauma they've already, most of them have already been through, to think about being sent back is really traumatizing. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much they think about it, but we try to be proactive for them and with them, so that it doesn't become an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that's happening right now in Santa Cruz, because we are a wonderfully welcoming community, is there's already movement towards creating those new little cards that tell people a little bit about their rights. If ICE shows up, they don't have to open the door,
Right.
and who to call, and what they can do to prepare themselves. For example, our superintendent of education said, all children are welcome in school, and need to be in school. And most many of our employers, are very committed to their workforce, including immigrants that work for them. And so, and of course, the most of the government, is really strongly preparing for the changes that we assume are coming based on the previous 4 years, we had, and all the rhetoric during the election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
We have to assume it's going to be even worse than it was before. And so we need to try and be ready. And that's what we're doing right now, is trying to help people be prepared.
Do you think, I know Santa Cruz, as you say, a very welcoming community. We're also a sanctuary city, but I don't know to what extent that really offers any greater protections to folks. I think it's maybe more important to have the human contact and the direct connection to services and housing and the things that you're providing that may be the difference in the coming days.
Last night there was a music program at UCSC, and Sanctuary Santa Cruz was tabling there because it was about immigration and music, and the humanities department put it on. And one of the professors who was speaking there, she reminded us that California is a sanctuary state, and that California is working to hold that line. That made me feel a lot better, and I hope that can happen, because it's an important thing for our state.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned UCSC and the college students, because I recollect that there was some movement to get students more involved in this very kind of welcoming work that you're doing. And it would be wonderful to see them really buy into that and provide some time and energy and services that are so desperately needed.
Yeah, that would be great.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we mention the Santa Cruz Welcoming Network.com again, the fact that you can make a donation, however generous you like, and you can also volunteer. I think a community buy-in to a program like this, community awareness that the immigrants are part of our community and they need our help is such an important issue to be discussed and to raise a level of public debate about. How do you see your work expanding and offering greater protections for immigrants coming into our community in the coming days and in the coming months and years? Ellen?
So, yes, we are gearing up to be able to serve more people. We imagine that we will see, more asylum seekers and recent refugees, trying to make their life here in Santa Cruz County. And we're working on a couple of things right now. The first is, working on creating some housing. And we definitely are working with people who maybe just have a room in their home, or maybe they have an ADU, or maybe they have some other arrangement that maybe they spend part of the year away. At a second home, we've had that happen where we get 6 months of the year. That's great.
Yeah.
We can use it. And the other piece is the legal services, really expanding our collaboration, our work with, we're not attorneys, but we depend on them. So we are working on, building that collaborative out so that we can do more of the free clinics so people can get the information and get the services they need. And I just want to say that's in concert with these other organizations who that is their mission or that is their purpose. Our county government's very involved in this as well.
Wonderful.
So I think I just want to say one of the other things I'm really hoping that this conveys is, even though, many of us are sort of shocked and hurting and dismayed about, what's happening on a national level, on a local level, we can be active. We can do something that really matters to this person or this family and make all the difference for them. And it's, I have to say, through the work that the volunteering that I've done, it really expanded my heart. It really expanded my perspective on who's my neighbor.
Yeah. And we are all neighbors here in Santa Cruz. I think that reflects a community value that we all share. We have another minute or two. Mary, just to finish up, of all the services that you are offering to immigrants, housing, food, medical, legal, what would you say is the most urgent need of all of those?
Well, really, it's legal at this point.
Okay.
Housing would be a close second, but it's because of the times, because of what's happening politically, I think getting everyone with a lawyer is a really important thing.
We have a very educated viewership here at Community Television, so the attorneys that are going to be seeing this program, please consider offering some time and expertise. Again, thank you so much, Mary Reynolds and Ellen Murtha, for your great work. Really, this is such an important issue, particularly with the changing landscape nationally, and certainly it filters down regionally. Santa Cruz is a wonderful place to have people welcoming in folks who need a little bit of a helping hand, and so we are there to offer it. Again, thank you so much for that great work. Thanks for sharing some time, and we will certainly be talking to you again soon. Mary Reynolds, Ellen Murtha, thank you so much. This has been Steve Plage, another issue of Nonprofit Spotlight, and we will see you next time. Take care.